Welcome to the Lair of Secrets podcast, the podcast about gaming and being a geek by two middle-aged geek dads. I am David Moore, and I have been in the throes of gardening and woodworking this spring.
And I'm Ken Newquist, and I'm not paying attention because I'm multitasking. Don't multitask, kids. Don't multitask.
It's been a long day.
It has been a long day. I was lost in a maze of meetings, but now I am lost in a maze of ancient video games, all different. So what have you been up to?
Lots more books, lots and lots of books. So my local library a couple months back partnered with a larger library network in the state of Indiana, and so there's a ton more ebooks that are available through the Libby app, which I can deliver directly to my Kindle. And so we had talked about Lords of Light by Roger Zelazny a while back. I read that. That was interesting. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in any of these books because I got a list, but I liked it. It felt very much like reading Foundation. There's less characterization and more plot and concepts that are being relayed, and it was really cool. And I can see the through line where Jerry went from Lords of Light to the through line of the latest version of God Sent Agenda. It's pretty cool. Read The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi that just came out. It is a very lighthearted book, even though it is set at the beginning of the pandemic. And it's funny, his characters reference Snow Crash and Deliverators.
Lovely.
In the book. So it's kind of a recursive falling down into science fiction. Then I read Thud and Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. Thud is in the Guards series of Discworld, and Equal Rights is one of the first, or if not the first, in the Witches series in Discworld. So both of those were really good. And then I am in the middle of Curse of Chalion, which is Lois McMaster Bujold. I talked before about like Penrick's Demon and those novelettes. This is a novel set in that series, and if I remember the quote unquote ordering, it's like set like 500 years before the Penrick series. And it's interesting. It's got a lot of political intrigue and magic and magic that is directed by the gods, etc. It's pretty cool. And I'm wondering if the latest political machinations that are happening right at the end of the book are gonna side with the heroes or the villains. So we'll see. And I'm gonna obviously continue to read for a while. I've got a beach trip coming up in the next month or so with the family, and I'm looking forward to that.
That's fantastic. I have to say, at least two of these books, Lord of Light and Kaiju Preservation Society, will both be on my summer reading list. I started reading Lord of Light, actually, I think after we interviewed Jerry, and I just got bogged down in other stuff. I just couldn't keep my momentum going, and so I ended up reading a lot of nonfiction, and now I'm kind of itching to get back into fiction. So yeah. I'm looking for that's going to be first on my list when I start my summer reading list.
Yeah, if I didn't have that connection to Jerry and know that it was connected to what ended up being God Sent Agenda, I might have bounced off it a little, because I like a character-driven story and plots, whereas this was, given the age, given when it was written, this is very much kind of the style of science fiction of that day, but it's hard to get into sometimes, like if you're not in the right mindset. So,
yeah, I think I wasn't quite there yet, so yeah. I will persevere.
Yeah. For their birthdays, I taught my daughters how to build their own computers from parts. So
Woohoo.
I had bought all the pieces and parts in secret, and because my office tends to look messy, they didn't notice the extra boxes, just extra brown cardboard boxes sitting in my office. And so they had both in the past asked me, "Hey, could we take my computer apart? Could you teach me how to use it? Or how to put one together, etc." And so I went out and I found there was a site that had been recommended, PC Part Picker, I believe it is,
Okay.
and went through, and the benefit of that is, what the last time I built my own computer, I had to figure out manually, does this CPU work with this motherboard? Does this RAM work with this motherboard? Do I have the right PCI, version? Do I have the right PCI speed? M.2 drives weren't a thing, so we got I got all of that. And because the cost of the video cards are so expensive, I got a motherboard with onboard video, which, given the age of the computers that they had, was about the same. But they have much better RAM and M.2 drive instead of like a SATA drive, etc. And it's got all the RGB. So like the RAM itself has RGB, the fans on the front of the case have RGB, and it's all hooked into the Asus controller, so they can change the colors of it and it'll all match and it'll all animate in the proper way. It was actually much cooler than I thought it would be. And so it was a great success, and it's been a couple months and they're still working. So that's also a good success. Neither one of them seems to be a Millennium Falcon like I had for the last one, where you have to kick it or take it apart and put it back together again in order to get to work. So that was my last build of a computer prior to this one. So, and then Tegan had her Brownsburg Winter Guard in for A Guard. They're that category. They got second in state, which Aaron and I, obviously not biased at all, being her parents, think they should have gotten first. And then they got second in nationals, which is WGI Nationals, which was a different group, but also had people competing from all over the world, or all over the United States. And actually, technically, it's the world finals. But it is, but given COVID, not too many people traveled overseas to come to it. But they got second. We were really hoping they'd get like top 4, but they got second. It was amazing. And the oddly enough, the group that got first in nationals came in 20th, or in state. Got 20th in nationals. So I don't know how the judging happened with that. But I do know that their choreographer who put it together had put the entire show together aimed at nationals, not at how state judges. And so that might have affected things. And then did a little bit of 3D printing for our props team. They needed like an electronics enclosure, and so I did that with there's a box, like an enclosure thing for SCAD that you can tweak all the settings. And so I tweaked all the settings so that all the pieces and a battery would fit, and it worked out really well. And then the last 2 things would be, I ran a D&D game. Weirdly enough, I actually ran a D&D game for Tegan and some of her friends. We had one game, and then we're taking 2 weeks off because there's 2 proms in the middle of that. And so I already said, hey, at the latest, we're going to go till August, because several of her friends are in college or going to college. So it probably wouldn't last beyond it. If it does, that's bonus, but I'm not planning for that. And I'm also planning of like, hey, I can't make this weekend, so we have to skip. And or if we're missing one person, that's okay. They all understand that that's okay. We're just doing it for fun. And it worked pretty well. I picked up D&D Beyond for it as well. Since Wizards of the Coast bought it. That wasn't the reason why, but there was a sale, and it just seemed I'd heard so much good about it, but I hadn't had a reason to really pick it up. So I actually have a subscription in several of the books, and
wow,
it's pretty cool.
Liking it?
I'm liking it. It's got an encounter generator, where you can say, here's my characters, and let me pull in these monsters, and it'll tell you what, like if it's an easy up through a deadly encounter. Gotcha. and then it tracks the hit points and tracks the initiative order for all of that stuff. And so that with Owlbear Rodeo is pretty darn cool.
Nice.
So, and then because all the players have access to the books that I bought, they can make their characters, and it'll also track their hit points and stuff on their character sheets. So
nice. Okay. Cool.
Because you can connect a character sheet to a campaign.
Gotcha.
And then the last, which no spoilers, I saw Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Seen it. Yeah.
All right, say that again because I ruined you.
No worries. I saw Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which I really enjoyed. It was it's not like a happy-go-lucky movie. Like some of the previous cinematic universe stuff is. It seems to be going down a bit of a darker path. Sam Raimi was the director, and you could tell that he influenced some of the cinematography as well. If you've ever watched any of the Evil Dead movies, it's subtle especially compared to the Evil Dead movies, but there are definitely some camera moves that are very much Sam Raimi. And of course, one of my favorites, Bruce Campbell, also makes an appearance in it. So it was fun. Maybe we'll talk about it in a few months and pick it apart and talk about all the implications. But until then, what have you been up to, Ken?
Yeah, so I think I'm waiting for my daughter to come back from college. She's arriving back this week, and when she does, we got to figure out when we can actually get out to see the Multiverse of Madness, because my kids still want to see movies with me. So I'll take it for as long as I've got it, right?
Yeah.
So aside from that, I've been going kind of retro on my video gaming. I actually I'm wearing my classically trained Nintendo shirt, which isn't entirely accurate because I was actually learned, I played a lot more Atari than Nintendo as a kid, but
me too.
Okay.
Me too.
So I got this thing. I'd actually been looking for this game for a long time, and I couldn't remember what it was called. And I remember playing this game in the arcades growing up, and it's called Darius. So it's a side-scrolling game.
I love that game.
And it's got so you have a little starship, and you're flying through cavern system. It's a branching thing. So you start off in cavern A, and then you can go to caverns B and C, and then it continues to branch out. The big bads are giant fish spaceships.
Yep.
It
was a huge machine. It was huge. It was took, if I recall, on the technical side in the arcade, it was 3 big CRT monitors that was put together, so it was basically one large screen.
Yes,
which was amazing.
And so you can actually emulate that in the version that I got. I got it for the Nintendo Switch, and so you can turn on the screen lines on your TV. Now, obviously, I only have the one TV, but so you could see where it is, and the sound system. I mean, obviously, there's a nostalgia here. I just remember being blown away by the it was stereo sound. This was a game that I was horrible at. To be clear, I'm not good at this game.
I don't know of anyone who was good at that game back then.
It's a bullet storm kind of game where you're dying a lot. Yeah. Now I have it on my Switch, so I can just play it forever and use as many quarters as I want. But I did really enjoy it as a kid, and it was fun to have it on my Switch. It was like $15 or something. It was on sale on the Switch, and so I picked it up. What
you should do is fill your pocket with quarters, and every time you die, take a quarter out and put it in a cup and see how far you get.
Yeah, you get a roll of quarters.
Yep.
See how
Or
far
every
because
three
really,
deaths, probably.
right. You know, it's one of those things like, you know, as kids, like there was a cost to trying to continue the game, right? And now you just keep going on forever. But anyway, and it comes with like 3 different versions of the game, or maybe I think 3 main like 3 editions of the game, and then like another 2 variants of one of the games. So
Very cool.
there's a lot to play. I've only played the first game, and so
Yep.
I'm going to be going on vacation soon, and I'll probably be playing a lot of that. I talked about this a while back. Slowly at Nuketown, I've been doing this thing I've been calling the Ready Player One replay, which basically reading through Ready Player One, identifying all of the video games that are mentioned in Ready Player One, and then playing and reviewing them.
Nice.
And so I think I've got like the first version, the first level, if you will, of this playthrough. Probably had 20 something games, and I finished it not too long ago, and then I started thinking about what level 2 is going to be, and like because it's a pop culture celebration, right? Like it just has so many freaking video games that are referenced in it. Right. And the cool thing is it's got games that I never really like. I may have missed as a kid, you know, or like I was only tangentially aware of. Some of them I'm good at. Some of them I'm not. And so I will tell you, Dungeons of Daggeroth, which is a major like game in the novel, like it plays a very pivotal role.
Right.
I suck.
Okay.
So this is like a faux 3D dungeon, like it's all line drawn, right?
Kind of like
black
the old,
and white.
Did you ever play the old Wizardry?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
But it's very like,
I know you played Ultima, but
yeah,
but
Ultimate
Wizardry was
look like this.
Wizardry was a 3D dungeon, and really it was line drawing of like perspective cubes, and then occasionally a 2D ghost or whatever would come out. And it felt a little bit like Rogue, but with graphics. But there was a definite end. So
gotcha. Yeah, so this game it's notable because there's a heartbeat. So as you're playing the game, like every step you take is kind of like consuming a little bit of your life.
Oh,
and so that's the meter. And so the heartbeat is constantly going, and that's basically your hit points. And as it goes faster, you're getting closer to death. And so as monsters are attacking you, your heart rate goes up, and it's got this like boom, boom, boom going. And so it's a nice little effect. I loaded it up. I couldn't figure out how to to equip my sword. I was immediately killed by a spider. Yeah. I eventually realized there's a tutorial. Like I was trying to figure out like how the hell do I actually play this, right? And so there is actually a tutorial that I had ignored, which kind of walks you through the initial things that you need to do, because for those who are not familiar, originally in games you couldn't just like use your mouse and your keyboard, right, or a joystick or something. Based. It was you had to just type the commands, right? Like you left
or use arrow keys or
equip sword, right? Like light torch, you know, or like, and this was like put torch in right hand.
I'm a little surprised there was a tutorial. Like,
it's like
normally those games came with a manual that you had to read to understand how to play the game, and then you would play the game.
Yeah, so I was horrible. I died so many times. It wasn't fun.
Gotcha.
If I had played it as a kid, maybe the nostalgia would have carried me forward. I can see the appeal, but I mean, it was fun to do it for the playthrough, and I got far enough to like get to another dungeon level, I think, but it was not nearly as much fun as the book makes it out to be. But again, nostalgia is a powerful thing. I also found that I'm even worse at Street Fighter 2. Gotcha. So I'm horrible at Street Fighter 2. Now I remember playing this game a little bit. It came out at like the early 90s, I think. And I was never a big like arcade fighting game guy because I wasn't good at it. And at that point, I think I was like late teens, right? For like 19, 20. And who wants to get their butt kicked by a bunch of 12-year-olds with way faster like reflexes than me? And I just never took the time to like learn any of the moves. So I'm like, I got it for the replay, and I'm sitting there and I'm like trying it, and like I couldn't make it past the first fight, even playing Ken.
Ouch.
So anyway, I'm terrible at Street Fighter. I did get back. So here's the key thing is it has gotten warm. As you say, it was 85 by where you are. I think it was it's gotten above like up to 70 a couple of days, then it dropped back down to 40s, 50s.
Right.
And it's been kind of in like the 50s, 60s for the last couple of days. But that is warmer than 40 degrees, and 40 degrees, ladies and gentlemen, is what you need to be able to use spray paint.
Oh, yeah, yes. Preferably more than 40. Yeah.
Yes, preferable. 40 is like the absolute minimum if you don't want the paint to just fall off the rocket, which I think I probably talked about a couple of episodes ago. So I was actually able to complete, and this is where the Twitch folks can see, the Nova.
Nice. That's nice.
Yeah, it came out really good. It's a black, so it's a very striking black rocket. I'll probably do a post about it on Lair of Secrets. This is it turned out exceedingly nice. I'm very, very pleased with it. The decals, more or less, as David can see, I had a little bit of issues with the decals because, like, as we've discussed previously, these rockets are old.
Yeah,
this is like a 40-year-old rocket, and not the decals don't always survive.
The water slide does not always water slide. So
yeah, and they just kind of disintegrate. I also built the Eggs Press.
Nice. I always wanted to get that one
for launching eggs.
Yeah.
So you have like a little payload here. And so like this is a show and tell portion of the podcast. So I'm opening up the top. It has a large cylinder at the top that you can put like a large sized egg in, and there's like some bubble wrap. I think I might have to get some new bubble wrap. This is also a 40-year-old bubble wrap.
Oh, okay.
I'm curious to see when I launch this rocket if the shock cord can survive the weight of the egg, because 40-year-old plastic. But
or even the weight of the ejection, to stop it from completely separating.
Yes, but I will say part of my plan for building all these rockets is some of them are going to break and some of them are going to die and some of them I'm not going to get back because I don't have room for all these rockets.
Okay, I was going to ask, like, they're pretty nice showpieces there, but at the same time, like, it'd be cool to launch them. So
yeah, they're definitely gonna. I mean, the Nova, it's like I have another Nova kit, so if I lost this one, I could build another one, and it's
Gotcha.
a very nice rocket. I mean, I would say it's a sexy beast. It's the paint, the black paint was fantastic, and then I have the Starship Excalibur, which I just finished,
nice.
Which turned out pretty nice. However,
I had that
the
one.
dorsal fin is not like actually straight.
That doesn't look quite. Yeah,
it's I think that
leaning.
Yeah, it's. I suspect something went horribly wrong. I think I drew the guidelines wrong. Like, so if you've never built a model rocket, like you get this little marking guide, and then you use it with you go to a door jam and you use that to draw the lines on the body. And I suspect I wasn't paying enough attention when I put the main fin on and things.
So it's slightly off center.
Slightly off center. I think it'll still fly okay. Like it's not so bad that I think it's not going to be aerodynamic, but
I mean, I'm sure it'll fly better than the space shuttle that I had flew, where it went up. It flew perfectly straight until it left the rod of the launch system. Then it made a sharp left turn, shot straight across the parking lot, bounced off the top of a car, and then landed in the field nearby. But I will say the space shuttle separated from the tank and booster assembly, cleanly.
Yeah, so I'm actually building my next build is actually it's a skill level 4 rocket. The Nova is actually a skill level 3. I've been working my way up. The other ones I was talking about, I think, were skill level 2s or whatever. Skill level 4 is the orbital transport, which is kind of like the idea for the space shuttle launch system. The kit itself is from like 1977.
Yeah.
And it has a main booster and it has a glider. I've never built anything with a glider before, so it's going to be pretty challenging. But when I go on vacation, I'm hoping I can knock it out. It's going to require a fair amount of patience. The other thing I've been figuring out, because we're just geeking out about building stuff at this point, right? Like, I had some faux pas with like trying to paint. So on this Express, you can see it's got one fin that's gold. And what I discovered when I built
artistic choice.
Yeah, well, I figured I wanted it to be shiny. It's like the golden egg.
Yeah.
Because I want it to gleam in the sunlight before it crashes. The technical term for that in model rocketry is a prangler. Rockets that crash are known as pranglers.
Oh,
There's even a patch for it.
All right.
It's great. My dad has it on his NASA jacket. I need to get one.
Nice.
But anyway, when I did the alpha build, which is skill level 1, it had a red fin. And what I discovered was regular masking tape does not prevent the paint from getting underneath, right?
Yes.
And even regular painter's tape can be problematic. And it's because what happens is that there's this capillary action that happens underneath the tape that actually draws the paint underneath, right? And so instead of a nice clean line, you get like this little bleed through. Yep. And you know, we're trying to like be professional here. So I got this. I did a lot of research, and I came up with Tamiya masking tape. This is like high-end Japanese masking tape. Tamiya.
Yeah.
Right. This stuff doesn't bleed. Nice. I got a nice straight line on this thing. And I had to paint it again because I didn't actually get the line where I wanted it, but there was absolutely no bleed through with this stuff. And so all of this is building towards, like, I have a Mercury Redstone rocket. There's a Saturn V, I think, that Estes has out now that, you know, maybe I'll buy a new rocket someday, but all of those have like more extensive paint jobs where you actually have to be careful about, like, you know, the black squares you see on the side of a Saturn V, right? Right. That's going to take, on a white body,
you don't want bleed.
Skill.
Yeah.
No bleed. Otherwise, you have to prime the whole damn thing over again and go back to square one. So
yeah, I really love the Tamiya paints when I've used them for miniature painting. Those are really cool. Really nice.
So my last thing is I'm celebrating my Swedish heritage. Nyquist is Swedish. For those who don't know, my grandparents came over here from Sweden, so I'm only like second generation. My Swedish kin have been up to doing great stuff with role-playing games. Like, we had like the Twilight 2000 role-playing game, which takes place in partially in Sweden. And what I picked up was MÖRK BORG, which is a doom metal RPG.
Yep.
And it's an old school Renaissance sort of game. Very simple, basic rule set. It is beautiful to look at. And so the setup for this is the world is ending. The prophecies of the two-headed basilisk were correct. You're scum at the end of time. Do you plunder or do you try and fight against the dying of the light? Think of every heavy metal album cover that from the 80s. And that is this game. And it's really striking. So the book itself is a yellow book with black cover, black lettering, a gruesome looking skeleton on the top. And inside, like, it's just the design choices they made. It's like bright pink lettering, right? And like they break all the rules of typesetting and layout. And so it's cool. I'd love to play it sometime. I think you have to be in the right headspace to want to play this particular game. Now that we're coming to the end of the pandemic, that might be more doable. People might be more interested in it. But I think you go in knowing like it's a doom metal RPG and you just have some fun with it.
And it seems to be different enough from like
Torchbearer?
Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Oh yeah. That's a much bigger book.
But like I played a little bit of Mork Borg, and it was, you know, if you're familiar with like Warhammer Fantasy, it kind of has that feel to it.
Yes, it does.
You know, things are just bad. When I played it, it was late into the night, and I had to go, hey guys, this seems like a really fun game, but my body is not letting me stay awake. So I need to go to bed, have fun. And they did. But the little I have seen of it seemed fun. But also like kind of mostly serious / dark, but I could also see it being run like Metalocalypse from was it MTV? I think it was. I
don't remember that one.
Okay. It was a cartoon type series with basically heavy metal artists that were kind of like inspired by like Danzig or some of those other groups back in the 2000s, and like Heavy Metal Magazine and stuff like that sort of stuff. So that's what it reminds me of. I would love to play it in a real game, like a game that I can be awake for.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, it's fun. I mean, it's also just like, it was a good read. It won the Ennie for in like, I think 2020, for like best game. Like, characters are, so I got like, there's some stuff that I think it's just hilarious. In character creation, they're like, it's very simple as an Oscar, as a, old school game should be. And like, they're like, the last step is name your character. It won't help.
That's hilarious.
That's kind of like the tone of the book, right? But it's got great art. It's just a riot for your brain to read it. And even if I never played it, I really enjoyed getting the book. I picked up one of the expansions, which has a bunch of monsters in it.
Nice.
So between this and Mothership, I could go to some pretty dark places this year. But
yeah.
The other thing is, and I might try this week, there is a solo version of the game called Solitary Defilement.
Cool.
Which relies on these two kind of core books, the Phylactery and the Mork Borg core book. And actually, it began MÖRK BORG began as a solo game, like a one shooter solo game.
Oh, cool.
And so I have that too, and I might try playing that, because I'll have some time to actually just like hang out and do stuff.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool. Like, I have all these solo games, and so part of what I'm hoping to do in the next week is actually play some of them. So
cool. Yeah, it should be fun. Sounds fun.
Yeah, I think so.
We aren't going to do like a main topic because it's been a little while since we've talked, and we've talked a lot in this particular. Let's see, how far are we in? I mean, technically, we've only been talking for a half hour, but that's okay. We don't have to have like an hour and a half episode. Thank you for listening. If you have feedback, we love feedback. You can send it to us, podcast@lairofsecrets.com, or via Twitter @Lair of Secrets. And we stream live on Twitch. If you're watching us right now, thank you very much. If you aren't watching us right now, we usually record every Tuesday at around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so if you want, we are Twitch twitch.tv/Lair of Secrets. And you can also visit, of course, lairofsecrets.com, and you can leave us some feedback directly on our episodes and such there. You can even send us some topic ideas or comment on the things that you guys have thought about, that we've talked about. So thank you very much, and have a great day.